Hello and welcome to Sound Off with System One. I'm your host, Krista Kornchuk, and I'm here today with our panel of experts to discuss your biggest interview and resume questions with our live Q&A. That means if you're tuning in, you can send us your most pressing job search related questions and our experts will answer. Before we get started, here are a few words about System One. System One is a leading provider of specialized, highly technical outsourced services and workforce solutions to critical infrastructure, technology, life science, and government sectors, putting more than 650 employees and 9,000 contractors to work in the United States, Canada, and the UK. As you're tuning in today, please join us in the comments. Our marketing team will be monitoring them. Let us know where you're joining from and what industry you work in. And as I said before, we encourage you to send us your most pressing job search related questions live, as this week's episode is a live Q&A. Before we get started with those questions, I want to have our panel of experts introduce themselves. Our panel will also be sharing their hot jobs, which you can find at the bottom of the screen or by scanning the QR code. And to view all other available jobs, please visit jobs.system1.com. Zach, we'll start with you.
Yeah, hey, thanks, Krista, for having me back. My name is Zach Shaw. I'm the Vice President of Business Operations for ALTA. ALTA is a subsidiary of System One, and we are based in Rockville, Maryland, and handle a lot of IT positions, both commercial and government. I myself have been in staffing for over 18 years now and 5 years with ALTA. The job that I wanted to highlight today is a system engineer role in Washington, D.C. This is actually a direct hire role with one of our government clients. The client is actually pretty flexible on the technologies used. What they're looking for is somebody with about 3 years of systems engineering experience. The real kicker on this one is that it does require someone with a TS/SCI poly clearance. So if you have that and might be interested in a new job, please check out the job below.
Awesome. And my name is Danielle. I am a recruiter with System One out of Houston, and my team specializes in accounting and finance placements. And today I'm highlighting a senior cost accountant position. This is a 6-month contract role on the west side of town. It is on site, and they are looking for someone who holds a bachelor's degree in accounting or finance and has 6+ years of experience in a manufacturing industry. Ideally, someone who has come in, got the project set up, and can execute on the financial side for the duration of the project. The compensation is $35+ an hour, and they are looking to move pretty quickly. So if this aligns with your background, please feel free to apply today.
Hi, my name is Dennis Hurley. I am with ALTA IT. I've had the pleasure of being here for a little over 5 years combined now. The job that I'm looking to promote is a principal architect that's also located in the DC area. It's actually close to National Harbor. This job is a principal architect focused on Linux integration. They're doing a lot of things right now with Red Hat. And so they are essentially looking for somebody to be able to come on site for the first 3 to 6 months full time. Then it'll be moving over to hybrid. This is a direct hire position, so you would be direct with our client. They're looking at paying north of $200,000 a year. So if this is something you'd be interested, please reach out to me.
Thank you so much. And again, you can view all other jobs at jobs.system1.com, or you can scan the QR code. Without further ado, let's get started with our topics. Please send in your live questions, anything job search or interview related. We are here to answer. In the meantime, I want to have our candidates start by sharing job tips that their candidates have been benefiting from. So please start sending your question now. And Zach, what is the most prevalent job tip that you've been sharing with candidates?
Yeah, I think, if I could recommend one thing, it is spend some time when you're looking for a new job, spend some time thinking about exactly what it is that you want to do, the type of position, the type of manager, the type of daily responsibilities, the type of industry. I mean, you name it. Spend some time, think about that, develop, what your ideal role and your ideal company is. And then, go out and see what you can find that matches up with that. Obviously, if somebody is unemployed and they need a position right away, they might not have quite as much time to do that. But I would still say, really understand what it is that you're looking for.
Yeah, I think that's so helpful because oftentimes we just assume we need to move into something we've been doing, Zach, but it's important that if you're making a move, it makes complete sense. One of the things that I've been sharing with candidates lately is getting past the applicant tracking system. So as you're applying to jobs, it's going into some type of system that recruiters, hiring managers are looking at to reach out to active candidates. But one of the things that can set you apart is doing a little more than just that, whether it be finding a hiring manager that you can share your resume with directly, as long as it's done respectfully through LinkedIn or an email. It's definitely something that allows you to get on their radar in more ways than one. And then I also encourage candidates to make sure that they're following up with their applications. So whether that be maybe applying again in a week or using a different avenue to apply to the position. I think it's important that you don't get lost in just the numbers, and it can be difficult to know how to do that on the candidate side, but from the recruiter's perspective, it's always helpful to hear directly from our candidates.
Fantastic. And it looks like we have a live question coming in from Tracy. Do you have any recommendations on the best way to answer the question on what my salary expectations are? Whoever wants to chime in.
Yeah.
I guess I'll start with this. That's always it seems to be an inherent human question that is a challenge for all of us to sometimes talk about when it comes to the financial. If they're asking you about their salary expectations, I always recommend, at least in the technical side of things or some of the financial folks, is give a range that gives you some flexibility. When you hone in on one specific number, that really kind of puts the control in the employer's side. If you give a range, then you kind of start to have some flexibility, and they know kind of, okay, we got to work within these parameters here. And you're not losing out on the opportunity, because I've heard of folks saying, okay, I want to be paid $100,000, and then the hiring manager is like, we were going to pay him 105 or her 105, but they only said 100. So give yourself a range, give yourself some flexibility to hopefully maximize your next paycheck.
Yeah. Zach, did you want to add?
Sure, I can add to that. I think, since we were kids, right, we've been told not to talk about money. At least that's the way that I was raised. And, when we're in this industry, that's just not an option, right? We have to talk about money, and we have to make it, a conversation that's comfortable. And again, I think, kind of going back to what I said in the beginning, like if you know what it is that you're looking for, if you know what your market value is, the expertise that you bring, and you've kind of done the research to understand that value, don't sell yourself short, right?
Mm-hmm.
Feel free to negotiate on that range that you can earn. But I would also recommend working with a recruiter, because the recruiters at System 1 and at ALTA, they're going to know what those market ranges are, and they're going to help you through that negotiation as well.
Yeah. One of the things that I always advise candidates to know is their minimum, right? We want to reach towards our maximum, but going into the conversation, know what your baseline minimum is to meet your needs and live the lifestyle that you've been accustomed to. When we get the answer, if we're asking the question about what they're looking for and they say they don't know, that gives us a hard starting point. So I think, like Dennis said, a range is really important. You want to be flexible. And then as recruiters, we know what our client's max is, and we want to stay competitive within the range. If you go in at the high end in a conversation, you may be ruling yourself out because they have a desire to save a little money within their budget. So be competitive, and also be mindful of where you can start.
Absolutely. And one thing that I'd like to chime in and say, and Dennis, if you have anything to add, please feel free to. We have a sound off that we did a couple months ago just on salary negotiation. So there's some really useful tips in that episode, and you can find it on our YouTube channel. Perfect. And we have another question from Savannah Tessner. She's asking, how can candidates stand out in a competitive job market?
Yeah, go ahead, Danielle.
I know, I'm like, there's so many things. One of the things that we actually talked about this week on our team is, and this is one small area, so I'm sure there's more we can expand on, but social media, utilizing LinkedIn, making sure that those profiles that hiring managers might have access to reflect who you are as an employee, not just a person. I'm on LinkedIn all day looking at candidates, and the information they put out on that website that reflects their brand, their personal brand, really speaks to me in representing them. So making sure, every step of the job search is tedious, but it really does help when you put that time and effort into reflecting who you are as a potential employee.
I can't agree with Danielle enough there. The thing I was thinking about also to piggyback on that is once you start working with a recruiter or with somebody in talent acquisition and you're doing that first interview, something that seems to be a lost art form is the form of a thank you note. Appreciate the person's time that took time to interview you, whether or not it's necessarily going to go work out or whatnot, doesn't matter. It takes just a couple minutes. Sometimes if you're working with a recruiter, you got to send it through them, but just take a couple minutes to appreciate the other person's or other party's side of the interview process for you. And I can tell you how many times that a hiring manager, when it comes down to, hey, we got a couple of people here, so and so that sent a thank you note, they just stand to. I think it's that expression of gratitude just helps you stand out a little bit more. And it's very simple, easy to do, free.
Yeah, those are great points. The thank you note is such an underrated thing, I think, right? I don't think it could possibly be overrated. In a competitive job market, I think it's important that you can't just stand out once, right? You got to stand out to get your resume noticed. You got to stand out to get an interview. You got to stand out after the interview to make sure that, hopefully you're the one that's, the one candidate that's getting the offer. And there are just different ways to do that. But, being a good person, following up, spending some time really, honing in on your resume and, the content that's in that. And I would even say, again, working with a recruiter that's familiar with that client, if you get a chance to do that, they're going to give you some tips for how to stand out with that particular opportunity as well.
Yeah. We can go around and round probably for the entirety of our time, but I want to add in one of the things that I think we forget to do is practice. We're talking to people all day, and so we're naturally rehearsed in the way that we communicate in our interview styles. But on the candidate side, don't hesitate to have a conversation about the questions you might be answering in an interview. Getting practice of those questions that you're not used to dealing with on a daily basis, I think is really helpful. And I, as a recruiter, always offer to do a mock interview, especially for those higher level positions that are going to be a little more technical. So practice too. Make sure that you're doing everything you can in preparation for your conversations with hiring managers.
Absolutely. And why should a job seeker use a staffing firm to find their next job? And what is the best way to find one? Kind of good question to roll into when it comes to standing out.
One thing I always find that a good recruiter, a good staffing firm, if a candidate is already working and they're very busy with their work-life balance, they can do a lot of work on the back end for you to help you find your next opportunity. If you're just starting your process and saying, hey, I'm not really sure I want to leave my job just yet, but I'm kind of curious what the market is doing, a great staffing and recruiting firm can help you kind of basically navigate to see what options are out there, have some conversations on your behalf without putting you, completely out there in the market if you're not quite ready to do that. A staffing firm can save you a lot of time and a lot of energy and a lot of, hopefully, confusion, because when you get out there on the job boards and you're out there on Indeed and you're out there on LinkedIn and see some great platforms, you can get paralysis of analysis because there's so much information. And hopefully a great staffing and recruiting firm and a recruiter can work with you to give you the information you need so you can start to make the decisions that you need for your next steps in your career if you're choosing to take them.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, please, Danielle. Please.
I was just going to add, having conversations. So, sometimes we don't learn until we're on the other side of it that a recruiting firm isn't doesn't have the reputation we want to be working with. But just having conversations with recruiters, we are open to talking, and you can learn pretty quickly who's going to be representing you with your best interest in mind. And we're biased, but System 1 is great at doing that.
Yeah, so a couple of reasons I would say, time and knowledge, right? And when you have that first conversation with the recruiter, they may have one opportunity available for you. They might have multiple opportunities, but they certainly have the market knowledge to kind of understand, what's happening, who's hiring, what the compensation ranges are, things like that. But they also have that direct line to the client, right, to the company. So maybe you don't have to jump through all the hoops that I know some companies make people jump through, where you're submitting a resume and then you have to fill out a bunch of information on their website that is exactly what's on your resume, right? And I know that's a big complaint amongst candidates as well, is just how much time it takes just to be considered for an opportunity.
Absolutely. I'm seeking remote SolidWorks work in Las Vegas. When seeking remote work versus on-site, would the process be any different from one to the other?
I think you can, with the tools that are out there, with the different job boards, with even on System 1's job board, it can be fairly straightforward to look for remote positions. The challenge that you run into in looking for remote positions is they might be getting candidates from all over the country and maybe even outside of the country, right? So it is a little bit more difficult to stand out, but I think, utilizing the job boards, utilizing, a recruiter can help you at least identify the opportunities.
Yeah, Zach, the remote opportunities that are out there, as we've been seeing it on the recruiting side, have been evolving, certainly. There was definitely a plethora of them. Everybody was wanting remote. A lot of employers were offering fully remote. But just in the last year alone, we've started to see those employers start to shift. So although I appreciate the ability for folks to be able to work remote and to be able to do things, I would preface also, and I've had a lot of conversations, that you may want to consider what hybrid would look like to you. Not saying you got to go back into an office 40 hours a week, but having that work flexibility with an employer has also helped people stand out when they're saying, okay, I'm willing to come in maybe 1 to 2 days a week, and they're like, oh, okay, that helps you also stand out in a bit of a crowded pool of people that are remote.
Absolutely. And I think, when you're trying to stand out for a remote role too, utilize, the newer version of ChatGPT to make sure that your resume fits the role in the job description. And you can also see if you have transferable skills. ChatGPT will help with that. As a recruiter in today's market, how are you feeling? Too much work, not enough work? And where do you place follow-up with potential candidates? It's tough out there. It is tough out here. What do you think, panel?
I'll let the recruiters answer this one.
Yeah, I can start. Interesting question. Thanks for thinking about us. I would say the market has picked up in the accounting and finance space specifically. We have had a really busy start to the year, super encouraged after kind of a slow turn at the end of last year. So not enough work. I would say we have a decent amount of work, but we can always handle a little more. And where do we place follow up with potential candidates? If you're speaking to, prioritizing communicating with our candidates that we're representing, I know we all work differently and have our own kind of strategy with that, but it's super important. We know that building that relationship is what keeps a candidate involved working with us. So I would say for me, it's a priority.
Absolutely, Danielle. From the IT perspective, and in my experience, the best word I have to describe the market has been acting strange. We expected some more things to kind of come down the pipeline last year, and then said, okay, it's not happened last year, it's going to explode in the beginning of the first year. And we're starting to see that, but instead of that consistent growth up, we're kind of seeing things. So day to day, things can change. It can go from everything's hot to nothing's hot, and but in my personal experience, and Zach, you've been in this industry a long time as well too. That's usually a precipice of when things are kind of going day to day and they're not just always flat. That means we're getting ready to start doing a rise. That kind of heartbeat rhythm that we're starting to see here. So I'm very optimistic of what's going to happen for the rest of this year. I think we have some great opportunities coming back. I think at least on the tech side, we've seen the unpleasant side of things where people have stopped the hiring process, slowed the hiring process, done their layoffs and things like that. I don't think that organizations can safely get any thinner than they can right now. And usually what we see is a rebound shortly thereafter that. When it comes to prioritizing with the candidate, the way I work with it is I always believe it's a two-way street. I work best when I'm not chasing somebody, because this opportunity to work together is to truly work together. If you're partnered up with a recruiter that's working with you, the communication should be always a priority. When they have information that's coming back about your resume or about a potential job interview or anything like that, you should be their first phone call. But with that also being said, we also need you to pick up the phone. And when we have a question saying, hey, when or the candidates, what time is best for you for your interview, and then we can't get a hold of you, so it's a two-way street. As long as that communication is going in a two-way fashion, I think those folks are always a priority for sure.
Thoughts on work from home hybrid schedules? Well, personally, I work hybrid, and I absolutely love having the flexibility to work from home and work within the office. And it's nice to have flexibility and a different environment to switch up my week. What do you all think?
Yeah, so I'm completely remote. I don't live very close to any ALTA office. I'm one of the not many that have that. I actually wish that I was a lot closer to an office so I could do some type of a hybrid schedule. I think that working as a team face to face, I think that it can just lead to a lot more organic conversations and brainstorming and things like that. As far as like how to balance it, like what's the right number of days in the office or days from home, I think that's probably organization specific and maybe even like business unit specific. Some organizations need more collaboration face to face, and some you can kind of split that work from home. That can be a larger part of it, I guess. I don't know. Dennis, I know you were hybrid. Danielle, I'm not quite sure what your working arrangement is, so I'll be quiet now and let you two.
Yeah, we're hybrid as well. I think thinking about it broadly, it really is, it's what works best for every individual. So if you're pursuing a job and thinking, I'd be interested in a remote role, but you've been in office full time, think through what's important to you with your team. I talk to candidates regularly who have been remote or hybrid, and they are ready to get back into the office. So although it seems luxurious and exciting being remote, it doesn't work for everyone.
Agreed. It's the hybrid schedule, I think, is the best of both worlds. It's the meeting in the middle from where we were once always in the office 40 hours a week to we all had to work from home for 40 hours a week. I think it's a great compromise on both sides, not only the organization, but also us folks that kind of got our work-life schedules balanced and to only working remote. Like, okay, we came together, we figured it out. I think the hybrid schedules, a healthy employer, and I preface the term healthy employers are going to work with you. They want to also help you be successful in your job. So those hybrid schedules can allow that. If folks have family things that they need to take care of, kids get on the bus in the morning or get off from school, all those different factors come into play. Those hybrid schedules can really allow you to have your stress level drop quite a bit and maximize your work performance at the same time.
And I'm curious for my recruiters, are you seeing an increase in hybrid opportunities post-COVID? I know, especially with more people going into the office, are you seeing more, let's go into the office, let's work from home, mixture?
On my part, I've seen both. I've seen organizations so far be successful at starting that hybrid schedule, bringing it back. I've seen organizations also go ahead and do the full shift and say we got to get everybody back 4 days a week, and there's some tension there. I think the hybrid thing is definitely here to stay. I think from the employee standpoint and the candidate standpoint, those that are willing to be flexible are going to be the ones that are probably going to see the most success in this job market at this time. The remote roles are diminishing. There has been, unfortunately, in technology, and I can't speak to the accounting and finance world, we've had a lot of remote situations where we have fake candidates. There's fraud going on. It's making employers incredibly nervous to continue to allow people to work at different parts of the country where you really don't have the opportunity to at least meet them and make sure that that person's on video is the person doing the work. And that's unfortunate. There's been some people that have definitely taken advantage of this remote thing and created almost a tarnished image for those that legitimately want to work remotely. I know organizations are also struggling to figure out, hey, how can I have this person remote and this person and create this person in the office? I think we're not, I don't even think we're halfway there yet to a solution, but I believe that those that are willing to work hybrid are going to see the most opportunities come for the foreseeable future. Remote's still there, but I don't know. I don't want to say that they're going to be long-lasting, high-paying jobs in the future.
Yeah, I was thinking about that this week too, how, the reputation for at-home workers is, being impacted because not everyone can handle it. With our team, we very rarely work remote opportunities. We just don't have the clientele that needs our services for those types of roles, but I would say hybrid. And then another thing we're seeing, and I like to encourage candidates with this, is a job may start, you can understand a company's culture and the flexibility they may have, but a job might start with, I need you in office full time, but you show your ethic and you show up and give them the comfortability to extend that hybrid opportunity. And it could come down the line. We see that regularly, and clients will communicate that, as long as they're a proven performer after 3 months, we can extend this. So be mindful that although something is full time, you never know what it might become.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, that is all we have for today. Thank you to everyone who sent in questions, some very valuable insights there. Don't forget to follow System 1 on LinkedIn if you're not following us already. You can actually enter to win a drone just by following us. Also, make sure you follow us on YouTube. You can see other Sound Off with System 1 topics that are really great resources to you if you are on the job market. And our next Sound Off with System 1 live stream will be Friday on March 1st at 2 p.m. And we will be discussing market insights and regional workforce solutions. So if you're on the job market, you're not going to want to miss that one. And we'll see you next time.